Hello, welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC 301. I'm drawing a blank here. Give me a second. UFC 301, Pantoja V Erceg. It's late at night. Just like the past 7 episodes, I've dodged all the spoilers. I finished the card finally, and I have many thoughts. I just want to point out, though, that we'll get to the main event at the end. But the first thing that rolls to my mind is that this is the second time. This isn't the second time. This is now, I believe, the second or third time they've been to Brazil. And every time we come to Brazil, it seems to be there's always a problem. And by either the crowd is unenthusiastic, and by unenthusiastic I mean just weird. The crowd just feels. I don't even know why I'm talking about the crowd. It's so late at night. Let me skip the crowd. Okay, the crowd was unenthusiastic when they were showing Charles Oliveira, when they were showing all the Brazilian fighters, and for some reason that made me mad. But here's the real topic of discussion, is that week in and week out, we continue to get bad scorecards that nobody cares about. They only care about the few fights, but they only care about the big fights, but they don't care about the little fights. All right? And that's what this is all about. That's what this show was all about, for me to complain and why. And there's a bunch of inconsistencies we'll talk about. But the one shining thing that really broke out in this entire fight card is either two things. Either how incompetent the Brazilian Athletic Commission is, or if they're really corrupt. And there was a part of me watching this entire pay-per-view where there's a little bit of my head that was thinking, this Athletic Commission is really corrupt. But then I had to stop myself and tell myself, you know what? Maybe they're not corrupt. Maybe they're just really fucking stupid. And I'm falling on the side of both. So throughout this entire card, I'll explain the weird inconsistencies that made my head go into that train of thought, whether this Athletic Commission is corrupt or they're just fucking stupid. And I think it's a little bit of both. We're gonna start off with the first fight. Okay, the first honorable mention. And this honorable mention is a robbery. Okay, excuse me if I sound sluggish. I'm sleeping. Or I'm sleepy, excuse me. I need to go to sleep as soon as I finish this. But Barbosa versus Kareckaite. Okay, I had this 29-28 for Kareckaite. First round for Barbosa, last 2 rounds for Kareckaite. This is a robbery. There seems to be this thing in the past few fight cards where all 3 judges are in unanimity. Unanimously feel as though a fighter won. All 3. Not a split decision. Not a different opinion in any sense. When the fight showed quite the opposite. Okay. In the very first round, Barbosa had a takedown with 2 minutes of ground and pound. Simple. Second round is where we get into the wonkiness. Kareckaite outstruck Barbosa on the feet. She also had a takedown, and Barbosa was slightly active on bottom. But here's the real crux of this round is that none of that matters. All that ground stuff didn't matter. Kareckaite outstruck Barbosa on the feet, and including the part where when she had a takedown, she gets up and she lands the leg kicks where the person's on their back. And even the commentary was like, hey, I wonder how they score these. And they were like, oh, maybe they're not significant, maybe they're pretty fucking significant. Okay, not only is she outstriking her on the feet, but she lands a bunch of leg kicks that should definitely count. And I don't know how the judges looked at that, but it mattered. We go to the third round. All right, in the third round, Kareckaite outstruck Barbosa on the feet. She also had a reversal. She outstruck her by about 20 plus strikes. She outstruck her the entire round. Okay, Barbosa was attempting to get a takedown. She failed. She got reversed. This is a 29-28. This is a 29-28 Kareckaite. Instead, we go to the judges' scorecards. All three judges, Fabio Alves, Saul D'Amato, Dave Torelli, give the first two rounds to Barbosa. It's just absolute nonsense, and no one's going to care. I looked online, no one cared. All right, we move on to the next thing. We go to a fight that, guys, I'm telling you this right now. If this were in the Apex, this would be a split decision. This would possibly go the other way. Instead, for some odd reason, it's not scored correctly. This is a weird optics fight. Okay, it's a fight that looks away, but if you actually watch the fight intentively, I feel like I'm not even here at the moment. If you watch the fight correctly, it's scored incorrectly. Silva versus Klose. This fight is not close. 29-28 to Silva. First round to Klose. Last two rounds to Silva. All right, we go to the first round, where Klose outstrikes. I'm reading off the wrong thing. Klose outstrikes Silva by about 15 strikes. All right, pretty clear. Second round, Klose is holding Silva against the fence for pretty much the majority of this round. Here's the problem, though. Klose is, I want to say, gassed. Was getting touched up a little bit on the feet, so he proceeds to move this to the clinch, where he proceeds to land, I want to say, very little strikes in the clinch. In fact, he is outstruck in the clinch. The only thing that looks good for Klose in this round is that he's, for the majority of this round, he's primarily on top of Silva, but he's getting outstruck. He lands a couple of the leg stomps, the Usman leg stomps, lands a couple strikes here and there, and then he just stops. And Silva continually strikes him for the entire round. In my head, I'm thinking to myself, this reminds me of that early Parisian fight in the Apex where Parisian was outstruck in the clinch, but they didn't give him but they gave him the round. That's what this reminds me of. This is a carbon copy of this. And in my head, I was thinking, this round goes to Silva. Even the commentary, who we'll talk about later, they thought they were judges tonight. And for the most part, they were actually right on some of them. In the key moments, they were wrong. But even in this moment, in the second round, they questioned, hey, did Klose actually win that second round? Because I don't think he won that second round. But they didn't actually say, declare that he won the round. Well, I'll rephrase it. DC definitely thought he won that round. I don't think he won the round. You go to the third round. Okay. Third round, Silva dropped and outstruck Klose. Klose had a oh my god, I'm all over the place. Silva dropped and outstruck Klose. Silva had a submission attempt and Klose had a reversal. That round also belongs to Silva. Okay, you go to the judges' scorecards, where all three judges give the first and the second round to Klose. I can't really call this a robbery. I can't, because of what I just explained in the second round. But it is. It really is a robbery. And for some reason, no one's going to care. No one's going to give a fuck about it. All right? We move on. This is where things start to get corrupt. Again, excuse me if I'm low energy. I'm just, it's nighttime. I have to talk in this sort of volume. But this is where my mind goes from, okay, this fight card is, I'm just mad at the judges. I become mad at the commission at this point, because the commission starts, from the refs to the judging to the refs, to just weird decisions that is made out through all the night. We're going to go through this stretch where I'm questioning whether or not this athletic commission is corrupt or they're just fucking stupid. We start off with the first one. Brener versus Orolbai. All right. Orolbai drops down from welterweight to lightweight and proceeds to look 10 times worse than he looked in his fight against Medic. In my head, I was thinking, okay, Orolbai's going to clean him. He does, but it's a lot more difficult than it looked. All right. I had this 29-27. It was supposed to be 30-27, but we'll get to that in a second. It's 29-27. There's a point deduction in the third round, making it a 9-9, 29-27. First round, Orolbai has 2 takedowns with ground and pound. Brener had a takedown as well and was active on the bottom, but Orolbai wins the first round. Second round, it's close on the feet. Orolbai gets a takedown with ground and pound for about a minute. Brener had a reversal and some ground and pound to close the round, but it's not enough. It's pretty clear that Orolbai won the first 4 minutes of round 2. Then we get into some fucking, let me lower my voice. Then we get into some fucking gooberisms, okay? Where I'll read the description and then I'll explain what happened. In the third round, both had a takedown with some ground and pound. Brener was active on the bottom, had a reversal as well, but he got outstruck on the feet by a lot, and he got dropped at the very end by Orolbai. The round belongs to Orolbai no matter what. But it's a 9-9 because while Brener is attempting to take down Orolbai, Orolbai grabs the fence. Now, earlier in the night, there's talk about fence grabbing, and DC Anik and Felder go into just some random soliloquy about, man, we hate fouls. Man, we hate fouls. You know what's worse? It's when a guy grabs the fence. Man, they should be pointed immediately. And in my head, I'm just like, oh, that never that's not only is that rare, I can't remember a time other than tonight where that's happened. If a guy grabs the fence, they slap the hand. It's a stern warning. I even remember a Tyone fight where Tyone's reffing back in Vegas in the Apex, and a guy grabs multiple times, and then I think he eventually points him after like multiple fence grabs. Orolbai grabs the fence to stop the takedown and is immediate. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Maybe I just have that. The ref, who I think his name is Pereira, I'm not even sure. It might be Pereira. I don't know. I don't care what his name is. He says he immediately points to Orolbai and points him immediately. The commentary points it out because in my head, the camera's not even fully showing the top half of his body. They're not showing the top half of the ref's body. So I'm wondering, why the fuck did he just point to him and put his hand up? Is he asking for a review? Is he rewinding the thing? No. He points him. He points Orolbai immediately. Not a warning, not a slap on the wrist, not a hard warning, not a giving him position. No, he just points him immediately. And in my head, I'm thinking, that's strange. That's so... Orolbai's up. He's up. He's up 2 rounds. So, if you want to be real about this, he's up 2 rounds. If Brener wins this round, which he didn't, thank goodness, but if he wins this round, this now becomes a draw. At that point, my mind goes into, he's trying to fuck over Orolbai on a fence grab that, not, in my opinion, it's very bad. Shouldn't be pointed immediately. It's not as though he's been grabbing the fence. If anything, he was the most offensive person up until round 3. It's not as though he's been grabbing the fence or fouling Brener continually. No. This is the first foul in that entire fight. And Orolbai gets pointed. I lock that in my head. I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's interesting. Because we know, throughout the night, everyone's talking about, hey, you're fighting in Brazil, you're already down a round. So they're already thinking the judging is biased. Here's the problem, though. If you look at the judges, though, they're all American or European judges, minus maybe one or two of these guys. So, if you want to be truthful here, the judging is actually not on anyone's side. The judging is kind of fair. I mean, it's incompetent, but it's fair. So, there's already a mindset going in that this commission's trying to fuck you. I'm taking that into my head. We go to the next honorable mention. Shore versus Brito. This fight ends in a TKO. Dr. Stoppage. Okay? Dr. Stoppage TKO. I had Brito winning 10-9 in the first round. In the first round, Brito outstruck Shore by about 13 plus strikes. His round. Second round, he wins by TKO. But he wins by TKO because he's just spamming leg kicks. He catches Shore on his leg, to where Shore is bleeding, and there's like a quarter-sized hole. I don't even think that's accurate. Like a dime-sized hole on the shin of Shore, and it's bleeding. And I don't think anything to it. They continue to fight. We've seen worse. I know we say that all the time, but we've seen worse. The doctor gets called in. He then proceeds to poke and prod and stick his finger in the hole. Shore is keeping it tough. He's just like, yep, okay, yep, foot seems to be fine. No, they stop it. Now, Brito's up. I locked this in the back of my head. Brito's up, so I'm not assuming anything bad here, but I am. Brito's up on the scorecards, at least in the first round. He's winning the second round. Why? In my head, there's no need to stop this fight. We've dealt with worse cuts, worse injuries, and yet they stopped this fight. Why did they stop this fight? This shouldn't have been a doctor stoppage. In any sense of the imagination, this shouldn't have been a doctor stoppage. But for some cute reason, guess what? It is. It's a doctor stoppage. I locked that in the back of my head. I'm thinking to myself, this is absolute horseshit. It's nonsense. At this point, I'm complaining. I'm mad. We go to the next honorable mention. Okay, Craig versus Borralho. Borralho, I hate the way he fights. I don't like anything about it. I like the other guy on his team, the other fighting nerd. What was his name? Ruffy. That guy's nice. He's real nice. Borralho, on the other hand, I don't know. I don't like the way he fights. Borralho wins the first round on my scorecard, 10-9. Okay, it's a 10-9 on my scorecard. Trying to find it here. Yeah. So it's a 10-9 on my scorecard. He eventually wins in the second round by KO. He knocks out Craig because I thought I mean, that's what we knew this already. We knew that was going to happen, or we knew he was going to win. We'll put it that way. But that's not the interesting bit about this fight. Who cares? Who cares about him knocking out Craig? What intrigued me is, you got to remember that when, I'll say it, when I'm watching this late, meaning when I'm not watching this live, when I'm watching it live, I'm not skipping because it's live. When I'm watching this not live, I'm skipping all the filler. I'm skipping all the commercials. I'm skipping all the in-between talks. I'm skipping most of the promos. I'm skipping the walkouts unless I hear something unique, unless I hear something goofy from the commentary, or I hear something interesting from the commentary. I'm skipping. And it gets to Paul Craig's walkout. And Paul Craig starts to walk out. And then I notice that they stop him. So I'm like, what the fuck? Why the hell did they stop him? Camera pans back to Borralho. They're cutting up some tape from his leg. And I'm thinking, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why are they taking? So commentary's complaining, why are they taking so long? The fighters are in a groove, blah, 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 blah. But that's not my point. In my head, like I told you, this is the third fight now. Something weird has happened. Something that shouldn't happen. Something that should be fixed. Something that shouldn't happen happens. And at first, it doesn't really roll into my head. I don't really care as much until one of the cutmen, they're standing real next to real close to the camera, and as you know, the camera has a giant ass mic. And one of the cutmen says, "Who was the inspector?" Now he sounds like a snitch, but still, who cares if he sounds like a snitch? He's correct. He's thinking, "Yo, we do this every week. We know the rules and regulations. Who's the inspector? Who's signed off on that? Who's the guy who's watching them?" Oh, I know. It's the Brazilian Athletic Commission, or whatever they call themselves, the Curitiba Athletic Commission, but I don't know, because they're called CAB. I saw CAB on everything. Curitiba Athletic Commission. It could be, I'm just going to say Brazilian Athletic Commission. The Brazilian Athletic Commission, or was it back? The Brazilian Athletic Commission. Someone was overseeing them. If this isn't allowed, and they cut it when he came to the front, who in the back saw it and was like, "Okay, you can have that"? Another instance that I locked in my head of, it's just fishy. Now, it didn't get through. The tape got cut, and he got into the cage, and he still won. So I guess it doesn't matter. But a part of me is just feeling this is getting too fishy. This is getting super, super corrupt. Lock it in the back of my head. Lock it in the back of my head. All right. We go to the next fight. And it's Michel Pereira versus Potieria. Potieria wins by submission attempt, guillotine. Cool, happy days, wonderful, beautiful, amazing. That's not the interesting bit about this fight. It's the fact that, now, there's a contingency online that don't like this. They think, oh, it's legal. It was illegal. It was legal what happened. This isn't that serious. The commentary are whining. No. This is 1,000% incorrect. I remember watching Pereira in the Apex doing the same thing, and they asked the same question, and it didn't get addressed. And I thought to myself, oh, is someone going to address the fact that he keeps doing this weird little somersault backflip onto the face of an opponent, and we're just going to go, oh, that's cool because he did a backflip? Or, hey, he just fouled him. He fouled him. He legit fouled him. Pereira does a backflip onto Potieria after dropping him with a jab or whatever. After dropping him, does a backflip on top of him and lands in his knees. Who cares if it lands partially on his chest? It hit him in the face flush. Okay, we saw Jaron Villel change a KO, TKO to a decision because when a guy took him down and body slammed him, it was a slam KO, his head was still on his opponent's head. So they were like, that impacted the slam. That's minimal. And then the argument here is that, yeah, it hit his face, but it also hit his chest, so that's minimal. That's just absolute nonsense. But it's not the decision that really hurts, that really grinds my gears. It's the ref in this fight. Same ref in the Brener fight who decided, hey, Orolbai, you're pointing to me, is the same ref here who suddenly just forgot what a knee to a grounded opponent was. Later in the commentary, later in the broadcast for this particular fight, you hear the commentary say, "Hey, the other refs are talking to the ref that was in charge of the Pereira Potieria fight." And in my head, I'm just like, this fucking guy is just standing there watching the fight. He's not even a knee to a grounded opponent, and he just doesn't care. I lock it in the back of my head. We go into the next honorable mention. Okay? And that's Smith versus Petrino. Petrino, another Brazilian fighter that I think is really overrated and kind of green, like super green. I don't know if you go back and check the logs. I'm sure you could hear me saying Potieria is like super green, and Smith should beat him should beat him walking away. So we get to the fight. He wins by submission. Potieria goes for a takedown, and he has the IQ of Jailton Almeida, and essentially just gets submitted via guillotine. But that's not the important bit of the fight. That's not the important part. The important part is, and I want to preface this by saying, I really don't think the Athletic Commission is corrupt. I just think they're either corrupt or they're really bad at their job. And here's another example. I'm naming off these inconsistencies not because I'm trying to nitpick or create a narrative that 301 is bad. Okay, because I like the fight card. I like the fight card a lot. Obviously, after finishing it. And it was great fights all around. Great fights all around. But when you see these things 7 different times, you start to go, bro, what the fuck? There's something fishy here. There's something super fishy here. And Smith gets the guillotine. He has it. It's in. And I'm just thankful that... I'm thankful for one thing. Because the Bueno Silva fight back in the Apex a while ago is a reminder to everyone that if you have a submission, don't let it go until the ref peels you off. Here's my point. Petrino taps, but his hand, but either the ref saw it. The ref saw the tap, and he goes forward and he hesitates. It's a tap. I've seen the U.S. refs, as soon as they saw that tap, they're on it immediately. And they're like, no, you tapped. It's over. It's over. This guy saw the tap from Petrino, the initial tap, and stuttered and waited. He stopped. He didn't even go to stop the fight. It needed Petrino to tap a second time. And when he was tapping a second time, Anthony Smith was still holding him, was still pushing his head back. And I'm thankful for that. Because this ref, for some reason, saw the tap and just decided, you know what, I need another tap for confirmation. He was too... basically what I'm complaining about is this was a late stoppage. This was a super late stoppage. Too late for my liking on a submission win for Anthony Smith. All right. And now that the complaining is done, let's get to the other part. So, Martinez versus Aldo. I had this 30-27. Pretty much Aldo outstruck Martinez in all 3 rounds. He outstruck him on the feet in the 3rd round. He had a takedown with some ground and pound. Martinez was active on the bottom in that 3rd round, but it doesn't matter. He outstruck him. He beat him 30-27 on my scorecard. He beat him 30-27 on, I believe, all 3 judges' scorecards as well. If I can find that. Yeah, but that's not the important part about this fight. The important part is that I'm sure everyone in the MMA media and space thought this was Aldo coming to get slaughtered. That's what I thought when this fight was announced. I thought Aldo was coming here to get slaughtered. They pulled him out of retirement, even though he technically wasn't really retired because he was still fighting, but he wasn't doing MMA. He came out of retirement, and Martinez, who's been on a nice win streak and has been looking kind of invincible, just got stalled. And during the walk-up, during the we gonna run this town, during that, Aldo was doing the thing where he's doing the little high knees, and they look slow, and I'm like, oh my god, here comes the UFC couldn't find a fight for Martinez, so they just pulled Aldo out of retirement. Look at this. These guys are gross. And I'm eating my words. And I'm here to apologize. And I'm sorry. I will never question the UFC man. No, of course I will. But this was another case of they hit it on the head perfectly. Whether intentionally or unintentionally is irrelevant. Because I don't care if they were in the room and they were like, hey, we think Aldo's going to lose. Let's bring Aldo into retirement. Who gives a fuck? We need someone on this card that can help us. It doesn't matter. They hit this out of the park. Martinez, this was supposed to be a gimme fight for Martinez. Instead, no. I mean, he was the favorite. Martinez was the favorite. Instead, no. Aldo comes out there and nullifies Martinez. Martinez becomes gun-shy, gets outstruck, and becomes like shell-shocked almost in all 3 rounds and loses. And it's just props to Aldo and the UFC for putting this fight together. And now we go to the last honorable mention, and that is Pantoja versus Erceg. All right, I had this 48-47 for Pantoja. In no way is this a robbery. I was looking online. People are trying to make an argument here. We'll get to the commentary because that really pissed me off. Even during I believe it was the 3rd round where the elbow happened. Even during the 3rd round where Anik was mentioning it, I complain about it every week. You guys keep focusing too much on the damage. First of all, that term is subjective on what damage is. Secondly, it doesn't apply in this scenario because there was more going on. But we'll get to that. 48-47 for Pantoja. I give the 1st round, 3rd round, and 5th round for Pantoja. Guys, there's no argument here. 49-46 is ridiculous. Kill yourself. 49-46, you should be sent to the moon. 48-47 for Erceg is malpractice. You're reaching for something that isn't there. John Anik, Cormier, Felder, who at the end of the pay-per-view, they were stumping for Erceg. And I don't mean like rooting for him. I mean stumping in the same, they were like, we're not politicking for Erceg, but they are. If you're complaining, hey, we went to the class, we went to the seminar, and the elbow, and he cut him, and this is the same John Anik. This is the same John Anik who literally had to shut up Dom and tell Dom, hey, the cuts don't win you fights. And he was correct in saying that, because Dom would say that every week, and I would be like, Dom, shut the fuck up. Can you shut up? Cuts don't win you fights. And Dom would be like, yeah, man, maybe you should just cut him. I think that'll win him the fight. I'm like, and then Anik would be like, bro, like in his way, he would basically say, yeah, but Dom, no, that's not how it works. Shut the fuck up. Anik proceeds to then turn into Dom. Was he drunk? Anik proceeds to turn into Dominic Cruz and go, hey, he hit him with an elbow that cut him. Does that mean he wins the round? Are you stupid? No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I feel bad for Erceg. And then they tried to blame his fucking corner. They're like, oh, he told him he was down 3-0. I mean, technically he was on one judge's scorecards. He wasn't. He was down 2-1. And I don't even know if they told him that, does it change the outcome? Because if you're down 3-0, what's the point of, like, the point is this. Commentary were politicking a round 3 win for Erceg, which is nuts. Pantoja won this fight. I don't even like Pantoja. I want to be clear on my biases. I was rooting for Erceg. I'm rooting for Erceg. All right. There's some people that were arguing 3 rounds for Erceg. No way a robbery. There's some people comparing this to like the Islam Volk fight. Not the same thing. Not the same thing. Let's start off with the card. So in the first round, Pantoja outstrikes Erceg on the feet and has 2 takedowns with ground and pound. Pretty clear. Pretty fucking clear. We go to the second round. Erceg outstrikes Pantoja on the feet by about 7 strikes, and Pantoja has 2 takedowns. Here's where we get into the mixy bits. This seems to be a pattern in Pantoja's like discography. Pantoja gets takedowns, but does nothing with them. But keeps the strikes on the feet fairly close to where he can kind of eke out these like mixy rounds, okay? And that'll come into play later, not in this round, because despite me writing Erceg outstriking Pantoja by 7 strikes, it doesn't matter because he's effectively outstriking Pantoja on the feet in this round. In round 2, Erceg is outstriking Pantoja well, and throughout the rounds, Pantoja gets 2 takedowns, but they're not effective. He just gets them, Erceg gets back up, he gets them, Erceg gets back up. This round belongs to Erceg. You go to round 3, and this is essentially the controversial round. Close on the feet. They're both landing on each other. Erceg looks nice for one moment. Pantoja returns back. They're both landing on each other pretty equally. They're both even on strikes, relatively on the feet. And then the elbow happens, yes. And they make a huge deal out of the elbow, but it doesn't matter. It's one elbow. They're both even on the feet. It's one elbow. And Pantoja gets 3 takedowns. You can't just ignore that. It's close on the feet. Fuck the elbow. Pantoja has 3 takedowns in that round. That round's going to go to Pantoja. Simple. You go to round 4. Erceg outstrikes Pantoja by about 8 strikes. But again, same thing as the second round. He outstrikes him pretty effectively. He is outstriking him for the entire round. You go to the 5th round where, in my heart, I'm like, this is being scored correctly. I know this is being scored correctly. Please, Erceg, save us. Lord Jesus, Erceg, save us. I almost cried when he said I blew it. With this, voice that sounds kind of, low. Not low, kind of high and low. I don't know how to describe it. Kind of cartoony, almost. His voice sounds kind of cartoony. He says, man, yeah, they blew it. And I was like, oh, I was going to cry. But, fuck it. 5th round, Pantoja gets 3 takedowns. 3 takedowns. The first 2 takedowns are kind of lame takedowns. He just gets them, Erceg gets back up. The last takedown is the consequential one. That comes at the end of the round. Erceg has a takedown as well, but Pantoja's last takedown is the one that matters because he gets it pretty much at the end of the round with about, I want to say a minute left, less than a minute. Ground and pound. Effective ground and pound. Because, you know what the difference was? They were even on the feet. They were both pretty equal on the feet. Pantoja had 2 takedowns. Even in this instance, without the last takedown, Pantoja probably still wins the round, but barely. But what separated them is the very last takedown by Pantoja, and he lands super effective ground and pound. It's crazy. He lands super effective ground and pound here, but doesn't in round all of them, or 2, 3, and 4. So there you have it, 48-47. Small contingency online, just getting mad. Weird. They were talking about cardio and stuff. I don't know. Pantoja has I don't even want to call it cardio. He just gets tired and then he doesn't get tired. But we go to the judges' scorecards. Fabio Alves, his scorecard reflects mine. Saul Diamata, his scorecard reflects mine. 48-47, 48-47. These are the correct scorecards. And then David Torelli, it's David Torelli. I'm just nonsense. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. He gives the first round to Pantoja, gives the second round to Pantoja. He gives the second round to Pantoja. Pantoja gets outstruck. We explained already. He gets outstruck, gets 2 takedowns. Those are nothing takedowns. And then the rest of his card reflects everyone else. Honorable mention to David Torelli. It's terrible. He has a 49-46 for Pantoja. And that's pretty much it. The night ends with just a weird mood of Pantoja won, but the commentary feel as though he didn't win because of some stupid elbow they keep harking on about. Ridiculous stuff just all around. But overall, it's a great pay-per-view. I did find it funny, though, when Anthony Smith won, and then he was like, and still undefeated, Victor... Oh, excuse me. The whole crowd just laughed. That's the one rare mishap by Bruce Buffer. But other than that, it was an amazing card. We all ate our words on the Aldo fight. And that was pretty much it. Thank you all for listening. Hopefully I'm back next week, and I put this out quicker, okay? And I put my thoughts out quicker. Thank you all for listening, and God bless.